Welcome to another episode of the Motor City Metrics podcast here at TigerMLReport.com. I am Rogelio Garcia. Alongside me is Chris Brown and Uper. No Cameron this evening. Hopefully he is resting up well. There's a certain place in Flint that serves up burgers that he got sick from. But I'm not going to say what. Just pain place. You think about it. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And also, you want to make sure if you're not a subscriber to our channel, we're guilty of this. Please subscribe to both our channels, Motor City Metrics podcast channel and a YouTube and Tigers Minor League Report YouTube. As every bit goes a long way, as we started up the season Friday, the minor league season starts up. Toledo will take on Nashville at 4:05. We'll be down there for that for opening day. Of course, the Tigers open up on Thursday, but the Mud Hens will put up the following day on Friday. So before we get into everything, want to check out our friends over at BetOnline, and they continue to be the number one source for all basketball wagering needs. You got college basketball right now, including pro and college hoops throughout the year with up-to-minute odds, stats, and trends so you can follow your favorite teams. And you make sure your translator doesn't place any of your bets. And as you try to also double your yen, if you will. So as you double your yen, experience the world's best wagering platform anytime with your desktop or your mobile device. Make sure you make a statement and not address the press by betting online today to be part of the team. Remember to use the promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Try to bet on double your paycheck or stretch your yen. Bet online. The game starts here. All right. So, gentlemen.
Stretching your yen brings on Zen.
Yeah.
Also sounds like something that's inappropriate.
Yeah. By the way, that is our sponsor through Believe, by the way, and we don't get paid a lot through them. I mean, we're proud sponsor to be Believe, don't get me wrong, but the Bet Online folks, we just have to make sure we pay the bills, if you will. I hate seeing that radio cliche, but it's true. But yeah, if you are interested in being a local sponsor, by all means, just reach out to us. As
there's a hamburger joint in Flint.
Well, if you're a hamburger joint, look, if you're like Daly's Hamburgers on Plymouth Road in Livonia, which is one of my favorite burger spots, or Coney Island, if you will, delicious Coney Island, or Lee's Chicken Tenders, a Chris Brown local favorite, or Taco John's, which is a Uper staple, then by all means, reach out to us. So anyway, the jokes are flying there as it was a very strange day in baseball. We'll get to that. But baseball is just around the corner. There was an off day today, as the Tigers are really the only spot left to discover is the bullpen spot, as it's down to Alex Faedo, Joey Wentz, and Bo Brisky, and it looks like Cole Keefe will more likely be the starting baseman for the second baseman. For the Tigers. The chat's starting to be the YouTube chat. Join us on YouTube chat if you have not already. As I know Sean with the comment already. E. coli burgers in Flint. Yeah, that's another one there. But so there's an interesting battle between those three as you look at the K per 9 of the three contenders for the spot. Brisky having the lowest one. And Wentz has been struggling a little bit with walks, but it really, of the three that are out, I mean, you count Diaz, but honestly, I don't see Diaz being on this team that much longer. He's had the worst spring of them all. And so it's pretty much now Wentz doesn't have any options either, but Brisky and Faedo both do. And so, gentlemen, I'm going to ask you guys your bullpen prediction. Who gets the spots in?
I was way off on the rotation, so I probably should keep my mouth shut. But I think, obviously, I always like to, in my mind, I would love to see them just keep whoever they think is best and whoever's going to help them win games if they tend to make a run at the division this year. And game one in April counts the same as one in September, right? But that's not always how these decisions get made. I mean, there's some long-term thinking to it. And I always look at the path of least resistance, right? And the easiest thing for them to do is keep Wentz and put the other two in the minors because they have options. That's easy. They can do that without any sweat. So that's probably what I'm going to go with.
Well, there's two spots, right?
2 spots. Yep. Two
Um, yeah. So I don't know. Part of me, we've talked over and over again about how Scott Harris just seems to want to have that depth. So part of me thinks that they'll just go with the two guys that don't have options left. But honestly, I think it'll be Faedo and Wentz. I think Diaz hasn't pitched terribly well this year, and he's gone back and forth between the 40-man roster several times in several organizations, and I think they could probably sneak him through again if they want. And Brisky has pitched really well, but I think Faedo has just been more dominant in terms of strikeouts and getting swings and misses, which is generally what you want from the bullpen, right? You don't want, not necessarily pitching to contact. But it also wouldn't shock me, and I was listening to Turning the Corner pod with Cody and Kieran, and Cody mentioned that he had somebody from a different organization basically ask him about Joey Wentz's makeup, which suggested maybe that the Tigers might be shopping him around for a potential trade anyway, or other teams are looking in on it. It could also just mean that other teams think that he's going to get cut and they want to know before they claim him. But so yeah, I mean, if they were just going by the ability, I think it would be Faedo and Brisky, but I think that they don't want to lose Wentz, so I'm going Faedo and Wentz.
Yeah, I think that the idea that they're shopping around Wentz would make a lot of sense because, I mean, you look at who they picked up yesterday, and I mean, it sounds like it is a minor league move in terms of you look at depth right now. But yesterday, the Tigers traded for cash because cash is king, as we discovered, and they traded for a lefty by the name of PJ Pullen from the Rockies. He's been with the team since 2018. He is the all-time saves leader in Connecticut. Chris looked up some of his stuff on StatCast, and slider had some good spin. Fastball 90, 91 tops. There was a cutter, and I thought that was interesting because just seemingly maybe they're just maybe it looks like they signed him to Erie, but again, that the final roster call, all that stuff won't be decided till the next couple of days anyways for the minor league side of things. But I just thought that was interesting in the sense that maybe they are preparing to lose Wentz. Is Wentz that big of a loss? Deadly Ninja B said in chat. I don't know. I mean, I think there's some intrigue there with Wentz a little bit. There's some potential with that arm that I think if used in relief. But I mean, I think the changes he's made throughout the offseason, I don't know. Like, is he getting the next Tyler Alexander, who by the way made the roster for Tampa? He's going to be in the rotation. I don't know, but I think he's better. And I would agree with Johnson Family Farm here on YouTube. I think he will be better not as a starter. I think he'll be better as a reliever.
Well, Wentz strikes me as the sort of guy that if he were coming from another organization, the Tiger, we might feel good about the Tigers' chances to fix him and make him effective. It may be one of those things where everything they've tried hasn't worked, and they're okay with losing him. But it does feel like at some point he's gonna. It's a good arm for a lefty. He's got a bunch of different pitches. It feels like at some point he's gonna figure it out, and it's maybe it doesn't happen with the Tigers or happen this year, but he's not a guy you want to give away for nothing, basically. So if they do lose him, I'm sure they'll trade him for something and probably something more than cash, but maybe not. Who knows? And then there was a question there. Franklin Williams asked, "Is Will Vest a lock for the bullpen?" And I was asking that myself a couple days ago because he hasn't looked terribly good or effective this spring. But they basically came out and said, yeah, they've just been having him work on things. They wanted him to work on things, and he's been doing everything that they wanted him to do. So they don't really care about the results that much with Will Vest, and they have last year's regular season to lean on, where he was a quality bullpen option for them. So yeah, he is on the team, and it's just down to those handful of guys that Raj mentioned earlier.
By the way, thank you, Lions Fan Syndicate, there for the 199
off the Frickers building.
And he says Matt Manning should be in the rotation.
Yeah, Matt Manning should be in the rotation, and that's what his comment there. By the way, for those who are new to the chat, for the super chat, essentially you give us a super chat, you donate. So if you want to donate to our PayPal link, which I'll put in here in a second, or you want to do super chat, put that in there, and you get one of these lovely 2-drop. Sometimes you get both. You get
Off the Frickers Building,
which is the great Jim Weber, the Toledo announcer, or the West Michigan great Dan Hasty.
Exquisite.
So there we go. But
You used to have a Gania one too, didn't you? Touch them all time.
yeah, I do have a touch them all time somewhere, but I lost it.
Oh, you're gonna have to touch them all again.
Yeah, I got to touch them all again. So, Sean with the $5 in his comment, I'm giving 5 because Manning should be a Brewer and not in the rotation.
What in the f- are we doing here?
Sean. Oh boy.
off the Frickers Building.
All right.
You know, with Matt Manning, again, for Lions fan syndicate who wants him in the rotation, just be patient. It's a long season. He's more than likely going to be in there at some point. For Sean, who wants him traded to the Brewers, well, last time they traded with the Brewers, they did pretty well. So, have they had a trade since the Norris for Olsen trade? I don't think they have.
As far as
well, yeah, the Halib and Canna, right?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what Canna can do. But anyway, we talked about this last week a bit. I just think that, we went over. Is anybody going to make 28 or more starts? Maybe one. How many are going to make more than 25 starts in that Tigers rotation? Maybe 2, I think, and so on. So there's going to be a lot of starts available over the course of 162, and we'll see Matt Manning plenty if he's effective at Toledo.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think Matt Manning pitched well enough to be in the rotation, but the 2 other candidates pitched better than him. Honestly, it's just that's just the way it is. They came into this camp wanting real competition, and I mean, this is going to be something I'm talking about in a little bit, but they just had remarkable health too. Like, so far, so good. Nobody's gotten hurt at all, and so they have a great kind of contingency plan there in Toledo. I'm sure it sucks to be for Matt Manning in a lot of ways, but this is the big leagues, right? You got to go out there and you got to perform even in spring training. And it doesn't count, but it matters.
Oh, Lions. I mean, the comment in here was that, and AJ thinks to start him over Jack Flaherty. Well, Jack Flaherty has had a fantastic spring. I mean, his velocity's up. Flaherty, I mean, he looked really good yesterday.
8 Ks.
Yeah, 8 Ks. I mean, he swing and miss stuff is up. Impressive. That's a hell of a deal. Look, if there's one thing about the Tigers have, and Deadly Ninja B said it best right there. Flaherty did not give up 6 home runs. Manning did. And Flaherty, look, the thing is with Flaherty, he came here because he was based off the Tigers lab. I mean, before you know it, I mean, like, there's going to be more memes with lab jackets with Chris Fetter on them than you know it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to keep happening. And I think that the thing is the most important thing, and this is something that I saw in here earlier that Tim Palmer said, and he's spot on with this. And now I lost what he said. And it's simply this. We're in a place a couple of years ago where majority of these guys are now playing in Mexico. And here it is. It says, what a place we are compared to a few years ago. We're starting guys all over the place that are no longer in baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at the news today with Jonathan Scope. He's playing in Mexico. Victor Reyes, Korea. I don't know where that. I know what Sandlot. What's that guy's name? I'm trying to draw a blank now. All of a sudden,
Ronnie Rodriguez.
Ryan Rodriguez is playing that. But the point is, the Tigers actually have some players that are interesting, and you look at that. That to me is we're actually talking about a guy named Jack Flaherty who was in the Cy Young conversation a few years ago. You know what? We've been cynical about this team for a long time. We've made fun of this team to no end. And Dal Lugo, thank you. Lugo was the other one I was thinking of. Josh, thank you. Dal Lugo is somewhere in Mexico. And Robbie Grossman signed a minor league deal with the White Sox, a team that needs, veterans so bad that Robbie Grossman, who's a grown man named Robbie, is considered a minor league deal. That's where we are right now. So
I forget if did it in a tweet or if it was on the show, but just to get to what Tim's saying, what you're saying, it's just so interesting that they're at the point already where these guys who are the last cuts are actually some guys who might have a future. They're actually demoting people who have a future instead of trying to find guys to take those last few spots who still have a pulse. Because there were a lot of years where, in 2019 and so on, the guys who made the end of the roster, this was the end of the line for them. This is their last shot. Now the Tigers are sending down guys who have legitimate shots going forward. So that just has to speak to where the organization is and the upward trajectory we think they're on.
Yeah, and that's where we're at. I mean, Cole Keefe's going to make the team out of camp, and that's a rookie. And that's something that, I mean, if you think about it, and I was trying to historically look at this. It was Scott Sizemore. So I'm trying to think of the last pure rookie who had no call-up experience who made the Tigers. Chris, I was trying to do this last minute. I didn't think about it.
On opening day?
On opening day.
Opening day rookie.
Without keeping no September experience, no nothing.
So
just
Sizemore would have been 2010, right?
Yeah.
And I think Austin Jackson was the same in 2010.
Although I don't think that sounds right to me because maybe Scott Sizemore had a cup of coffee in 2009. Maybe.
I don't think he
did. I think
they sent him to the Arizona Fall League and he got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt just literally walking. Sorry, that's harsh.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. No, I mean, no. Castellanos got a cup of coffee at the end of 13.
12 or 13 at bats or something. Yeah, maybe 20.
And then after that, if it was like,
no, it looks like Scott Sizemore was correct.
James McCann,
maybe McCann. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man! All right, Joe Hill with the $10. Thank you so much.
Joe
Off
Hill,
the Frickers building,
and
that's
his
character name on Blue Bloods. Are you that, Joe Hill?
I like that question here. So happy for baseball to be back. How do you feel if Langford does live, in fact, live up to all the hype? 30 bombs, rookie of the year with Harris passing on him. Look, my initial reaction when Langford was passed over by the Tigers and they picked Max Clark is well documented on YouTube somewhere. That will be my same reaction. I mean, just want to trust the process. I want to trust the process. Just want to trust the process.
I mean, it's tough because he was right there, and a lot of us wanted him.
Mm-hmm.
But I go back to the fact that two other players went ahead of him, right? Like if he was such a sure thing and everybody thought so, then he probably would have gone ahead of Skeens and Dylan Cruz, right? So like, I mean, we all liked him. Again, it's just all you can do is just hope that Max Clark reaches his ceiling, which is substantial. So I know people get upset because Wyatt Langford's there already, but I was just tweeting this the other day. When Wyatt Langford was Max Clark's age, he was riding the pine for Florida. He got 4 at bats as a college freshman for Florida. That's what Max Clark, the same age. All right, so it may be 3 years from now, Max Clark is in the big leagues and doing damage. So you just got to give it time. I don't. We're already experiencing this with the Jackson Jobe stuff right now, and I almost want to tell people to back off on that a little bit because it's not a done deal by any means. Jackson Jobe is a pitcher. Pitchers, I mean, J.J. Cooper had a really thoughtful example of this on one of their podcasts at Baseball America not that long ago about the Braves' young pitching. How Mike Soroka came up and looked like he was going to be a key part of the rotation. Yeah. He was pitching at 20 years old and looked really good, and then basically missed 3 years. And how Ian Anderson looked like that, and then he got injured. And it's like we're not out of the water with Jackson Jobe by any means. I just want people to settle down. But he looks awesome, and the same thing could happen with Max Clark by the end of next year. He could be like top 5 prospect in baseball.
Yeah, when you think of the Jobe thing too, also Marcelo Meyer may come back from that injury and reestablish himself.
Yeah,
too. I mean, he took a fall, but he took a step back last year, but he was hurt.
Yeah, it's not time for victory laps yet.
It's a long way to go. And also, Wyatt Langford has not hit a real home run yet in a game that matters. So He could be hitting a $111 on April 5th, 20th. We don't know when it gets real. I hope the guy does great. I don't care. Packers passed.
Yeah.
I can't believe I said it. The Tigers passed on him, and
the real allegiance comes out.
Yeah, it really comes out, didn't it? That was great. But anyway, Max Clark was the pick. You got to live with it. We won't know the answer to this one for 3 years, but yeah, we all wanted Langford, and I don't know how much gloom and doom there is to make over it. It may all work out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, there's just Max Clark's already changed his swing. He's already worked on his mechanics. The guy's busting his ass. He's doing what he can. It's as simple as that. And again, the one thing is here's the thing. The most important thing we should all remember is what the Tigers get out of their positional player talent now. Because if we've been talking about the pitching so much and yada, 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 yada. But to me, what I'm looking forward to this year is whether or not they can get contributions from the likes of Cole Keith, Jace Young, because he came on pretty strong towards the end of the spring. Same thing with Justin Malloy, one of the last cuts of the year, or spring rather. He'll have one more spring game left, but still, nonetheless, that is what I'm looking. That's to me is the sign right there. If the Tigers can get contributions from their young positional players, not just their pitchers, for a fact, you pretty much are over 80% sure the Tigers are able to develop pitching. Now it's the hitters. Now, if you have to, and we'll get to the over-unders in a little bit, that Riley Green is healthy the entire season. That Spencer Torkelson can come back and hit for a little more higher average. And that Kerry Carpenter, the 19th round draft pick, continues to develop. That is more important than anything else. That's just, to me, if the Tigers are at a point where they're looking like a team that can develop pitching, but it's now the offense, because then it decides whether or not they're going to spend or not. And this team does not, to me, and I think I've said this, privately, but I think publicly, I will say this: the Tigers, to me, are looking like they're going to be the way they built a team like Cleveland. Really good development, good strong drafting, and very minimal spending on the free agent market. I'm sorry, that's just the way I see it. Prove me wrong. I hope I'm proven wrong. But if you look at the way everything's building towards that right now, the way that Scott Harris has addressed that about free agency, about spending, and just adding when needed, they're going to go within. Yep. And this is their first real opportunity to go from within.
No, I think that is Cleveland, Milwaukee, Tampa. Those are probably the models that the Tigers want to use, where they're going to be consistently competitive, while not really breaking the bank on anybody, not really signing a ton of their homegrown players, and just hopefully developing enough to stay in it. It's not terribly exciting to think about that, just because we were so used to the last run of success, where being built on the heels of all these big money free agent stars. But ultimately, I don't think fans will care that much if they're actually are competitive and making the playoffs on a regular basis, right? I'd like, it sucks to lose homegrown stars. Like I still can't believe Cleveland gave up Francisco Lindor. But they at least they signed Jose Ramirez, so they got one of those two guys. But I think that's probably the future for the Tigers. And like Raj said, I will believe that until they prove me wrong.
I think it's pretty much on the money what Raj said. And I think and the player development is going to have to be extremely productive, because they're not going to be drafting top 5 if they follow that path where they're consistently or fairly consistently in the playoffs, and they're going to be drafting in the 20s. So that's going to be a pretty big difference than being in the top 10. So we'll see how that goes. I think this year, the Scott Harris's track record now that we have one full off season of really seeing what he's going to do. He signed free agents who kept the floor a little higher, but probably didn't raise the ceiling of the team. That's how I kind of view it. And when you think about it, I think Cleveland does a lot of that too. They'll bring in some spare parts to keep their floor from cratering. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds bleak. I know OBK said in the chat it sounds bleak, and I'm not trying to be bleak about it, but I mean, this Cleveland went to the World Series a few times with that same formula. I mean, they took the Cubs to 7 games in 2016. That was a
Yeah.
they were within a pretty close shot of winning the World Series then.
Yeah, like and I don't know. You could also hope that they go the Atlanta model, right? Where it is a huge rebuild from within, and then they just go ahead and sign all their core players, which would be fun. It's a little bit different. I don't think there's an Acuna in the bunch here just yet, but yeah, I mean we don't know, but I do think that they're probably going to stick to that small market and stay where they're getting revenue sharing and getting those extra draft picks every year. And it's yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, it's kind of disappointing because you want those big names, you want the guys that can help out, but there's no one way to win in baseball.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, this is a thing to me that we'll see what happens. I mean, I like to be proved. I mean, the Atlanta model I wouldn't mind that whatsoever. I mean, that's a model that
Just got to get the players.
Yeah, get the players for it. Yeah, I mean, if you can get an international talent, that's awesome to go with that, like a Ronald Acuna type. That'd be great. But for now, that's like a pipe dream. But let's go on the inside numbers. Yeah, I love that new funky beat for inside numbers. Like all right. Uper, what's your inside number this week?
My number is 4. And that is the consecutive games leading off with a home run for one Travis Bazzana of Oregon State.
Nice.
He's now hit 14 on the year, 4 straight leadoff home runs this weekend. Pretty amazing. The guy is kind of rocketing up the draft charts. He's an Australian kid, plays second base. I was hoping early in the year that was the guy who was going to be lingering toward the back half of the top 10 for Detroit. Not going to happen, I don't think. I mean, I think people are pretty much mocking him into the top 3 these days, unless something happens to him. But the kid's impressive. He's got some real power, good speed on the bases. That's going to be a really quality draft pick. And it'll be pretty fun to monitor that next coming at bat to see if he can get number 5 here next time they take the field.
Yeah, he feels very much like Cleveland has the first overall pick this year, and he feels a lot like just a Cleveland player in general, the middle infielder with some pop there. One of the other players who was probably going to go top 3, top 4, JJ Weatherholt of West Virginia, he was actually going to play shortstop. He's a second baseman too, so people were curious about that, but he's been hurt, so maybe we can hope for him to slide to the Tigers at 11, but that seems unlikely.
Only one, Brady Anderson with 4 in Major League Baseball.
Really?
He hit 4 straight games with leadoff homer. That big year he had in 96 when he hit 50.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
All right, Chris, do you have an inside number?
I do. It is it's slightly related to something we talked about earlier, but it's 37.1, and that is Jack Flaherty's strikeout rate this spring.
Nice.
Now you don't want to make too much of it, right? It's the spring, it's like saying, oh, this guy hit 8 home runs in spring, he's probably going to tear it up. But in Jack Flaherty's heyday 4 or 5 years ago, he was striking out around 30% of the batters he faced, and it's been down significantly since then. But as we talked about, his stuff is up this year. It looks good. He's been getting results. It hasn't been super efficient, but yeah, I don't know. We talk about a lot of what it takes for the Tigers to exceed expectations, and I don't know if there are many players on the roster who could move the needle as much as Jack Flaherty if he's right again, if he's back to what he was in 2019, because he's projected right now for 1.7 WAR this year. And back in 2019, he was 4.7 WAR to Fangraphs. So if he can come close to that, you're talking 2-3 wins right there, and that's huge for a team that's pushing for the playoffs. So I don't know, good sign so far from Jack Flaherty.
Yeah, I mean, again, he just with confidence too. It's like he's just out there and mowing down there. And there was one thing that the one thing that's certain about that, him along with Drew Anderson were a couple of the names that came up about, and Cody Saberhagen did a really good job in The Athletic. If you had a chance to read the article about the mechanics of what they were going into and some of the pitching. Really good stuff from Cody. And you can put Flaherty in there too as a benefit of that. Catch up in the chat here real quick. We have a couple of inside numbers. My inside number for Deadly Ninja Bees, my number is whatever Nick Maton's OBP is right now, which is 0. He has no hits. And I don't know what his OP is, but probably up there. 6, Ty was my favorite here. The number of pitches Gregory Soto threw the Tiger turned the 2-0 deficit into a 4-2 victory. All center cut fastballs, just meatballs that were just destroying. Sean O'Toole. My number is 427. That's how many feet Spencer Jones hit a ball when I was in take. Good grief, that is a big booty. All right. 199. Thank you again, Lion Syndicate fan. Do you think Casey Mize ends up like Spencer Turnbull? I believe that's what he was going for. Whoop, wrong drop. That was my Brent Herter drop. And I'm scrambling now. Oh boy. There you go.
Off the Frickers building.
I don't know what Spencer Turnbull's trajectory looks like right now. I mean, he's a 5th starter in Philly by default because Tawan Walker's out with a shoulder injury. So, I mean, I think Mize has a better outcome than Spencer Turnbull because if you're talking about better outcome, a guy with better stuff as a 2 or 3 guy, then yeah, I think Mize is going to end up better than Spencer Turnbull. That's just me. So, my inside number, by the way, it's a number 26, as in the number of runs scored in the Soul games, 15-11 in the game 2 of the Soul games, as there was a 2-game series between the Dodgers and the Padres as regular season baseball started last week around the time we were all sleeping. Maybe you were awake. I'm not sure. But what a fun, I was watching some of the highlights of it. What a fun series. What a fun idea to combine watching games in Korea already with just a really good atmosphere. But along with that, we get the Japanese culture as well. K-pop concert for people who love K-pop. I don't know too much about K-pop. I don't know about that stuff. The group called G I. You know what? Forget it. It was a K-pop band that was out there.
K-pop band.
Yeah. And apparently Fernando Tatis was getting down for it. But anyway, but the another number part of that is 5, and that is the number of runs that was tagged for Yamamoto's first inning, as he allowed one. He just lasted 43 pitches and 1 run, or 1 inning and 43 pitches. That's it. So all the offense you want in the Soul games. And again, I really like the fact that they cross over these 2. Wow, I'm just looking for cultures. I don't know why I couldn't get the cultures, but that is it for our inside numbers. If anybody else has a good inside number you want to put in the chat, by all means, do so. I did enjoy this comment in here too from Larry. They're gonna do a special Poshmark. Scott Harris signs all the DFAs across the MLB. We're gonna have a new team. Good joke there. So, all right. Let us continue on into. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff to get to with baseball, but it's before we get into the good and the bad, the ugly. This is kind of like, I know this will probably make everybody's good and bad, the ugly this week, and that is the Shohei Otani. What exactly happened between? I don't know, Chris. I mean, you do a good job of developing these stories, but I'll just set up the basic out. You do a good job of going into the weeds of things better than I do. So he spoke to the media for the first time today. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I mean, this is a fairly complex one to me too. I mean, what we know is that the FBI was investigating an illegal gambling operation in California, where sports betting is not legal. It's legal 40 other states or whatever, but not in California. And that this guy who was in charge of this, at some point, he was bragging that Shohei Otani was one of his clients. And as bookies do, like, hey, bet with me, I've got some big timers. And I believe the original story was that, and I think the original story came from Otani's translator to ESPN, that Otani made the payments, but he was just doing his friend a favor, right? He made these payments to this bookie to help pay down his debt. And then I think the story changed, or we got the official story from Otani that no, this is theft, right? The guy just stole this money from him. He did this without Otani's knowledge. I really don't know what to believe. You know, there's a lot of things that don't necessarily make sense to me. I don't know why Otani, you know, if he is a, you know, degenerate gambler, and we've certainly seen top athletes be that before, right? But if he were that type of gambler, I don't know why he would have deferred so much of his salary. Like if he's losing $5 million a year gambling, then you would think that he want the full salary. But I don't know, maybe he makes enough money from everything else that it doesn't matter. That's possible. There's a lot of different edges to it. And I don't know. I feel like if Major League Baseball were ever to try to sweep something under the rug, it would be this. To whitewash it in some way, because this truly is. I mean, we're talking about a transcendent figure in sports, the most marketable, even if he's not necessarily, you know, out there doing, you know, big commercials in the United States. This is a global phenomenon, a huge cash cow, and they're not going to want to put him, you know, away. But we'll see. I was reading Maury Brown he was going through the rule book and said that there were, you know, 4 different outcomes that are outlined in the rule book, from ban for life, like Pete Rose, if they find that Otani was betting on games, to a year ban if he's working with a bookie. I don't know how that works. To it's up to like the commissioner's discretion if it's found that he was betting on other stuff. So we'll see. I don't know. I'd like to believe that Otani didn't know, but it's all kind of hard to believe that, right?
It would be interesting to know what does a day in the life of Shohei Otani in the off season look like? You know, how busy is he with appearances or commercials, everything else? Does he have any idea how his bills are being paid, and, you know, what's going into what account and so on? I don't know. I don't know. I can tell you I know where my money is, but, you know, we have a lot fewer zeros. Much easier to keep track of. That's one of the things when you said he deferred all that money. He may have deferred all that money so he doesn't gamble it away. So,
Yeah,
just as a protection. But, you know, you think we would have heard something, whispers, or there'd be other people would be coming out of the shadows now saying, "Oh yeah, he gambles." You know, we haven't really heard that yet that I know of. So that lends some plausibility that maybe this guy was just ripping him off.
well, yeah, and that's the thing is, we've talked about it before. To be a professional athlete requires so much work and so much preparation and practice every day. And Shohei Otani is not just a hitter; he's also a pitcher. So that's, you know, you're talking double the work there. And we also know that he's just a super ambitious guy. Like I remember, you know, he had written down his goals, right, in high school or whatever. They were all like, you know, make the major leagues, win the MVP, set the home run record, all this stuff. So he might just be a guy who's focused 100% on baseball at all times, and basically let this translator run his life. Like, here, you just need to do everything for me so I have it when I need it. I'm going to focus 100% on baseball. So it's possible. It's one of those things where I don't know if we're ever going to get the full story. Yeah, boy.
Jeez.
I don't know. I mean, it just sounds all familiar. I don't know if it's something we've heard before in the past. And I would like to think that Otani was just a busy guy and didn't know. But I mean, really, who knows? I mean, who really knows what happened here? But I just know this. I mean, just look at the press conference today, or his statement. He said, in a statement, he said he only learned about the alleged thief last week, and the whole timeline is weird too. He said that he didn't exactly. He said, Missouri spoken English during the meeting and said he didn't understand what exactly was being said. Otani said he started to feel like something was amiss.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I don't know how billionaires check their accounts every day. I'm sure they don't. I mean, maybe they don't deposit checks. Maybe they have checks just sitting somewhere. I don't know, because I'm not rich and I have no idea how that all works.
The only thing I know is that supposedly you can't have more than about $250,000 in an account After that, it's no longer insured by the federal government, I think. So you have to have a whole bunch of different bank accounts, or have your money in stock and all that stuff.
Foreign banks.
All MIB, I did find out that all MLB employees have to watch a video on anti-gambling. So maybe Otani missed that. Maybe it wasn't, or maybe they didn't have a Japanese one version of it. I don't know.
I thought he said he knew he couldn't bet on baseball, or the other guy said, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing, it really is. It's fishy. And this is, I mean, the larger conversation, right, is about, how this is what baseball has invited by getting in bed with the gambling companies, right? That there's going to be more and more of this. Who was, the NBA coach was talking about how, like, he'll be in a game and the spread is 10 points and he'll have people in the crowd yelling at him to keep playing and to leave the starters in and stuff like that, and how it's just overtaken everything. And we talked about before, the commercials are constant and cloying. And it's just, I don't have any problem with people gambling for fun. It's fun, but it's like, it's just become so universal that it's really annoying.
Like, I think someone for the Toronto Raptors basketball is being investigated today for, he was making bets on prop bets, not win or loss of the game, but prop bets, that kind of thing. So, that's just going to leak in there too.
It's got to be remarkably tempting to any athlete that say, okay, you know what? I'm not throwing the game, but maybe I have 3 turnovers or something like that. Like,
even like that ref a few years ago, Tim
Donaghy, I think.
Donaghy.
Yeah.
Supposedly he wasn't throwing games either. He was just calling the rule book really, really strict, putting a lot of guys on the free throw line, and the over would hit on a lot of his games in the over under. That's how they kind of tried to say that the integrity of the outcomes of those games are okay, even though that he was betting his ass off. So,
the thing is that cracks me up is that, by the way, I'll get to that in a second, but the thing that really makes me laugh about all this is it's almost like scripted from a Hollywood movie. I mean, what was it? There's been movies about this that they've come, like, just, it just seems way too convenient. Even in I did look into, like, my day job. I work in marketing, and one of the things that I noticed about the these betting companies, their marketing budgets are dropping the bucket. They don't really. I mean, they have a limited amount because they're not. It's not like the spend is ridiculous. I mean, the fact that you have like, so for digital marketing standpoint, you have Google Ads. I mean, it's your thing. You can't spend Google. I'm sorry, you can't spend gambling ads on Google. It's just like kind of like it's part of the whole code. But they find every single way around it. I mean, you find any loop way that you can find it in there. I mean, except for our friends at Bet Online.
Yeah, I know.
Our friends at Bet Online are really good people, and we want to let you know that we support you and how you guys support the Believe Network.
I just realized that. I was complaining about the ubiquity of gambling ads, and it's our sponsor there. If you're going to do it responsibly with Bet Online. Yeah. Don't.
By the way, do it responsibly. Yeah. I mean, bet responsibly.
Bet $4-5 million that you don't have.
Yeah. Or don't let your interpreter take the downfall for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, again,
gotta have a patsy.
Yeah, you gotta have a fall guy.
Gotta have a patsy.
I mean, you know what? Like, here's
the thing.
Look,
unless there is an audio tape or a videotape of Shohei Otani making a bet, I really think they're going to find a way to skate him through this, and we just happily move on our way through the baseball season.
Imagine this guy
possibly do it. They'll do it. He
should have taken a bet, Uper. This guy right here should have had a patsy. Ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman right here in the middle of our screen. That's why. So we did get a question real quick in here about why did the Tigers sign or cut interest? What was it? The reliever Chris with the wild hair who signed in Korea or signed in Japan?
Zavala.
Yeah, he signed I think he signed in Japan.
He did. The main thing with him was strikes. He didn't throw enough strikes. He had a fastball that would touch, I think, 101 maybe, and had a pretty good breaking ball at times, but it was wild and not enough strikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and big league hitters will make you throw strikes unless you're just absolutely elite, and he wasn't quite there. So I'm sure he's making a good living, and maybe he'll come back. I don't know. He was a guy I think they liked last year, but he just never quite put it together for long enough for them to bring him up.
Yes, and Tyler wanted to know, didn't Pete Rose say, "I only bet on us to ever win"? That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that Pete Rose did once say.
Yeah. And I had a big argument with an old dude at a golf course once about this. Big Pete Rose fan. This is when he was managing, right? He was betting on them to win. And okay, that's great. But now what about your relief pitcher who's pitched 3 nights in a row and got a sore arm, but you need an out to win this damn game to make your bet? You're going to put that guy out there? Degenerate gambler just might. So that to me was never a good argument. Oh, I bet on us to win. Oh, good for you. That's still wrong.
It's also funny that
No, go ahead.
Just the the general way we view the game has changed to the point where like Pete Rose's elite skill of getting hits isn't necessarily viewed as all that great anymore. Obviously he's hit king and all-time hit king, and he was a very good player, but it's like people are like, whatever. Like, yeah, you get hits. That's great. Enjoy those singles. Give me 500 homers.
All right, let's go into the good, the bad, the ugly. All right. I mean, we did cover quite a bit of the good, the bad, the ugly betting wise here, but I'm sure there's a couple of things. So I wouldn't blame you guys if we covered quite a bit there. So that being said, Chris, what is your good, the bad, the ugly?
Yeah, and my good we've touched on a little bit, but I'm just going to reiterate here is that the Tigers' pitching depth and health. We talked about it. They 6 legitimate big league starters. Not to mention, there are other years where we could be going to the year with Brant Herter in the rotation and Wilmer Flores and Alex Faedo. Like they have tons and tons of good arms, to the point where, as we touched on earlier, 2 of the guys they just let go last year in the offseason are now in the starting rotation for other teams. Tyler Alexander in Tampa and Spencer Turnbull in Philly. Now there's some injury issues there, but they let those guys go and they're starting elsewhere. And their Tigers' best starter last year, Eduardo Rodriguez, is actually on the injured list now with a lat strain, I think it is.
Yeah.
So and then meanwhile, Zach Short makes the Mets. So just like I don't know. I think that's a good sign. We talked about this a little bit last year when Willie Castro and Harold Castro made other teams. It's a good sign for your organizational health when players you let go are making other big league teams. Sometimes it could be. I don't think any of these are huge mistakes. It's just they're not letting these guys go and watching them end up in Mexico, as we were talking about.
Yes.
So that's good. My bad. We'll stay in the Central Division here. Is the Guardians outrighting Miles Straw? Now, if people remember,
wow.
Yeah, so people, I don't know if you remember that Miles Straw came up with the Astros, and the Guardians traded for him in the middle of the season a couple years back, and who they gave up was Yainer Diaz, who hit 20 home runs and was a 3-WAR catcher for Houston last year, and Phil Maton, Nick's older brother, who was really solid for the Astros last year. And then Straw started out okay. Basically, the Astros traded him at his absolute peak, but he did finish that year with a 98 WRC plus, which is, it's average, but with him playing plus defense and stealing a bunch of bases, it was fine. So Cleveland signed him to a 5-year, $25 million extension. Ooh. And in the last 2 years, it's been a 67 and a 69 WRC plus. So they waived him and outrighted him, and now they're paying him $20 million to play in the minors. So that's a tough one for them. But he just had zero power, and the defense went away last year. So you're not going to pay a guy with, I think he literally had 1 home run in the last 2 seasons.
What an asshole.
Fair enough. And my ugly. And this is another thing where it's so complex. We don't need to get into all of it, but it's the players union stuff that's going on. And I touched on it a little bit with the whole JD Davis issue a while back, but this is different. This is there was kind of a Scott Boras labeled a coup attempt in the players union. Basically, a bunch of players got really upset with Bruce Meyer, who is the second in command behind Tony Clark. And they were kind of accusing him of being in bed with Scott Boras in some way and like focusing too much on the top of the market and not the rest of the players. And then the other players were backing a guy named Harry Marino, who was like originally part of like the collective to try to get minor leaguers collective bargaining rights. And so, yeah, there was apparently a really contentious phone call and things got out of hand, including like Jack Flaherty is one of the players involved in this. And but now the players are seemingly backing down. And there was Ken Rosenthal had an article or an interview with Jack Flaherty about it on The Athletic. But now that Marino guy and his second in command, Josh Tolley, former big league catcher, are accusing Kevin Slowey of who is what's his official title? He's the director of player services of intimidating players to back down and basically saying like, if you don't do this, we're not going to support you. Like it's getting real soap opera-y in the players union right now, and it's I imagine we're going to get some more ugly details coming out soon. But this is what we talk over and over again about the lousy free agent market this year, and the teams have spent like $1 billion less than last year, and that's with the giant Otani signings and Yamamoto signings. And the players union is upset. You end up with guys like Michael Lorenzen taking like half of the amount of money he got last year after having a very good season. So it's things are getting ugly in there.
They could the players union office, they could have a nice softball team. And they got Josh Tolley and Kevin Slowey and Tony Clark. They just got to fill out a couple more guys there, and they kick some ass.
Coup attempts are all the rage these days, said Deadly Ninja Beast. It's true.
It just sounds like something out of a mob movie. It really does. Like you just see, like you could see maybe Tony Clark going to a random toll booth, getting ready to go across, and suddenly 4 cars come up and get shot.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Oh, look at them massacred my boy.
My boy.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do a Marlon Brando impression because it'd be
but
awful.
that's also in the Jim Brockmeyer, the original Jim Brockmeyer clip where he loved referencing The Godfather, and there was the clip of Delman Young booting a play in the left field and going, "Look how they massacred my boy."
So, folks, 2 outs, bottom of the 4th. Barzini's attempt could never have outfought Santino.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for you using that drop for a long time.
So.
Oh, man, the way Vasquez is going, Mama better make some more of that moist cake.
All right. Let's hear good and bad Doug, this week.
Oh, my goodness. Well, my good was going to be Tyler Alexander, but I think we beat that horse into the ground a little bit here. But I'm happy for him. We'll just say that. A lot of injuries in Tampa with Taj Bradley and a couple others. So Alexander gets his shot. He's been effective so far this spring. Is it something that, Tampa has him doing differently, or is he the Tyler Alexander, the journeyman that we've seen who will occasionally look good for a few weeks and you think you got something, and then all of a sudden he's not looking so good, getting pulverized, and he's just a guy. My inclination is to say he's still just a guy, and he'll get a few starts until they get some pitchers back and healthy. But good for him. I mean, I always root for ex-Tigers to do a good job. Obviously, Isak Paredes probably did a little too good, but that's okay. One of the very few we missed there. But since I didn't want to talk about that, I did today. I put under good, but it's a sad thing, but it was still a good read, I hope, for people. 3 years ago this week, my dad passed away. I wrote an article for Motor City Bengals then about my dad, and it's about kids in baseball and your moms and dads and fathers and daughters and so on. And so if anyone would like to read that, it's A Tigers Fan Fades Away. You just got to Google that and you'll find it. Tigers Fan Fades Away. It comes right up. I got a lot of nice comments again today, which is nice because the article's 3 years old, but I think it still hits home with some people. So if you want to check that out, that'd be cool. My bad, we already talked about Shohei Otani, but I just want to talk a little bit about tearing down stars. Shohei Otani, and there are some people who are already ganging up on him and really hope that he bites the bullet on this one. This guy is an international star. He's exactly what baseball needs. This is a crappy situation that he finds himself in, and it's bad for the sport. This is not a guy that needs to go away. This is a guy that needs to be a massive star. And I think he still will be. I would bet nothing comes of this in the end, but who knows? I mean, if there's a video out there, things could go poorly. But, it's interesting. The same thing's happening here at a smaller level in Iowa. Caitlin Clark is becoming, a national hero for a lot of people, has been now for over a year. But now, she's getting a little cranky with some refs and a few other things and getting into some incidents on the court. And there are people who want to tear her down, just coming out of everywhere. And that's unfortunate because she's another one. She's a game changer. She's making women's sport popular, putting butts in seats instead of having, fans cleverly disguised as empty seats. So hopefully that's something we can work on as a society. We don't need to always tear folks down just because they've become great. I don't have an ugly, but I have a happy. I didn't know this until the other day. The Mud Hens will be here in Des Moines next week, the second week of the season. So I'm pretty excited about that. Again, a couple years ago when Torkelson and Green and everybody was there, that was a great time to go see the Mud Hens. But this roster, maybe not as, on the high end of guys with Torkelson and Green right now, unless I get to see like a Job sighting, but it's still a really nice roster. So that has just fired me up for baseball even more, knowing I'm going to be going to 4 or 5 games in downtown Des Moines next week.
See if we can spy you on the minor league camera again.
Yes, I'll try to get in a good spot by the dugout.
It's interesting too is that we're talking about. Why am I hearing myself on the mic? Oh, there
I
we
was
go.
too.
Sorry. All right, now it's gone. Okay, sorry about that, folks. But no, what's interesting about the minor league season coming up too is that how AAA is starting over, and then AA and High A starting the first week of May, or excuse me, the first week of April rather. So I wish they would all start at the same time, but I mean, weather-wise, it kind of makes sense. But then again, the weather also has been insane. Case in point, as a result of the quote-unquote great weather, I had a wicked sinus infection, and finally, today was like the first day I wasn't coughing up a lung or what have you. So, but you're talking about your father. My father would have been real quick. He would have March 21st this past week. My dad would have been 90 years old, and I'm so convinced if it wasn't for COVID, my dad would still be around. I mean, he started getting into dementia a little bit, but my dad Cubans have some sort of long life expectancy thing. I don't know what it was because, I mean, we've had a couple of my aunts who lived into their 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it's tip of the cap to my dad who got me into baseball in the first place, got me into all this, and he picked up my first Detroit News subscription 1986, 87. And because of the Pistons, and then got into the Tigers a little bit. I was more in the Pistons originally than before I got into the Tigers. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. My good is the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. Now, why would I say the Philadelphia? I mean, Dave Dombrowski has built a bullpen for the first time since maybe the Expos days. I don't know. But Dave Dombrowski, we're going to, by the way, Diddley Minjibies, we're going to go into the over-unders, and we're going to have some bold predictions. Our bold predictions is going to be next. So that's going to be the next segment after this. Let me just through these good and bad and uglies this week. And we also got a good question here from Nick, too, as well. They have, according to Fangraphs, the number one bullpen, power-ranked bullpen. And that's led by Jose Alvarado, Jeff Hoffman, Gregory Soto's in there, too. Orion Kirkering, who's a guy who I really like that arm a lot. That guy's a good arm. So congratulations, Dave Dombrowski, the good, the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. Because I mean, looking at their starting staff, if they can stay healthy, that's a staff that can challenge Atlanta. I really believe that. I really think that Philly has a good chance to.
It's a good team.
It's a very good team. Very good team. But that bullpen, I mean, you also have Matt Stratham, too, who is a guy who bounced around a little bit, and you made him into a bullpen weapon. So I really, really like their bullpen. So just props to that as my good. My bad is as far as like let's just talk about the Colorado Rockies for a moment, okay? Coming into the season, I'm sorry, not the Rockies. I'm sorry, the White Sox. Okay, the White Sox on that list are among the worst bullpens, and the reason why I wanted to mention the White Sox is because the Tigers are playing them on Thursday. You talk about all-time low morality right now, or fan morale right now. Fan morale in the White Sox right now, it's bad. I think the White Sox are going to lose 100 games this year. I really think the White Sox are that bad. And I'm not trying to crap on them. Well, screw it. I am crapping on them. We're going to have Crystal O'Keefe on from the White Sox blog on either Wednesday or Thursday for the second show this week. And she will probably go off about the White Sox management, rightfully so. The White Sox, just the way, just all the sentiment, everything. Just really, really, just there's no excitement in Chicago. None. I'm sorry. There's none. I mean, just from what I can see, it's just people are just over it already. And that even since it began. I mean, if you're a Royals fan, at least you're like, oh, I got something to look forward to. Maybe. I don't know. But I sound like a cynical asshole when I say that, but it's true.
No, and it's even like there's vague threats to move the team and stuff too. Like it's just it's a bad team, bad things happening, bad owner. It's rough out there.
Yeah.
You just think back a couple of years how optimistic they were a couple of years back. When they looked like they had a lineup that could really do some damage. They had a couple of good starting pitchers. I mean, and it just Tony La Russa came on board and it has gone downhill ever since.
They had Yerman Mercedes crushing it out there, and then all that fun went away, and there you go. They had AG Hinch.
That's a good call. That's a good call back there. Don wants to know who out of the pen is hitting triple digits on the gun this year. You know what? I'm gonna go with Wilmer Flores at some point. Well, I mean, who hits it first on the team?
Foley.
Yeah, probably Foley. So, yeah, and I'm glad that and by the way, I'm glad Jerry Reinsdorf, the mayor of Nashville, told him to kick rocks. Good call there, Sean. That he wants $1 billion. Get in Southside Chicago. Get bent. Jeez, oh Pete, man, come on, it's ridiculous. And really, the ugly really is that it's just we have this really weird lull between when regular season baseball starts. That sucks. Yeah. That really sucks. So that is the ugly part of that.
Yeah,
so
tomorrow's game is the worst game of spring training. It's everybody swings the first pitch. They're just trying to get out of there without getting hurt.
Yeah.
A lot of number 78 out there, number 68.
Yeah, a lot of 91s.
Yeah.
A lot of guys that are – we're going to hear about some guys that – I mean, once we cover the minors, there might be a guy I've never even heard of on there. Nick Spillane wants to know, friend of the show, said, why did you think the Tigers chose Wentz over Alexander? I think they put Alexander under the impression that he was going to go through waivers and not be touched. That's because they don't – is that the impression you got, Chris? Because I don't think they – expected to lose Tyler Alexander.
Well, he was hurt, right? Like I think that he was hurt, and I think honestly, I don't think they thought they probably could sneak him through, and probably didn't think if he didn't that it was a huge loss, and it sounds ridiculous, but they also were like, okay, we'll just save a little bit of money because Alexander was into arbitration, he was due like $2 million, and Wentz is making what $750, and we laugh at teams that bicker over 100 or 1.25 million or whatever, but remember that Tigers and Casey Mize were at odds over $25,000, I think it was, or $15,000. It's so if they think they have a guy who is of equal talent and he's cheaper, they'll just go with a cheaper guy.
And of course, he had to go to Tampa, where all the fans on Twitter are now assuming he's going to be a second tier Cy Young candidate. Because Tampa's going to fix them,
Well, I'm just worried that Tampa also breaks every single pitcher. It seems like so. Hopefully, he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. Tampa invented the
opener
shortener game because they didn't. All their pitchers were injured. It's not like they weren't revolutionary when they did it. They did it because out of necessity, not because they were being so quote unquote savvy with it. I mean, if you really think about the idea of an opener, the opener wasn't anything more than just, oh crap, we have no arms. What are we gonna do?
Yeah,
come on. And then Tampa's like, oh yeah, that's the way we wanted it to look. Like, it was crazy. It was a smart way to go about it. Get out of here. Come on. All right. So it is time for our bold predictions segment. We have questions follow. So this is gonna be kind of a rapid fire thing, but I did get people around the sports media scene a little bit, so I wanted to prelude that a little bit. And so, Chris, in terms of these over under numbers, can you explain to our listening audience or watching audience how you came up with some of these numbers? Because I know there was a couple people who were wondering. You were low man on totem pole on certain numbers. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, mostly I just went by like the Zips and Steamer projections and tried to come up with something that sounded right to me. So yeah, I mean, it starts with Riley Green's over under games with 125.5. You put the 0.5 on everything, right? So you have to, if he has so 125 doesn't count. But yeah, I was trying to come up with things that were, I don't know. I was throwing them out there at first to try to get some suggestions if these seem right. Because we did it last year, and every single person picked Riley Green to hit more than 14 home runs. We had like 20 different people do it, and of course he didn't because he got hurt. We had a couple like that where every single person picked one. And so I was hoping to get ones that, some categories this year that were a little tougher. But as it works out, I think we already have a couple that are basically 100%. So I don't know. It's just, it was just I didn't pull them completely out of my butt. They're based on some projections out there.
All right. Well, let's introduce some of the numbers here. So I did pull, the first one comes from friend of the show and now former ex-Barstool employee Chris Castanelli, who was kind enough to give us his. And this is his over-under for the year. He has Riley Green over 125 games. Baez under 230 batting average. And this is how his shape out. So I'll be posting more of these on our Twitter. But so yeah, this is Chris Castanelli's over and under for the year.
He believes in Alex Lang, huh?
Yeah, he's a believer in Alex Lang. That is correct. All right, Cameron, who is not here today, our producer of the show. Here's his. And he's a believer in Riley Green, over 125 games.
So,
also,
I don't know if we want to read them for the just the podcast listeners.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have to read but yeah. So you mentioned the Green games, 125, Baez batting average, 230, torque, weighted runs created plus, 116.5. He was 107 last year, but was more like 125 in the second half. So I kind of split the difference there. Parker Meadows, triples, 6.5. We kind of discussed this earlier, and somebody actually asked a question. Who was it that asked a question of us? Ryan Krause said over under 10 triples for Meadows. And so I thought 6.5 was kind of high. Your triples are so hard to predict. But you got Kerry Carpenter RBI 69.5. I think Steamer or Zips had him at 69. So I was like, all right. Colt Keith 17.5 home runs. I think a lot of people are going under on that one, but not Cameron. He's got over. And then Mark Canha 49.5 walks. I couldn't come up with a good one for Canha. I was like, well, he's an on-base guy, right? Let's do some walks. And then Pick specifically wanted to add Riley Green's ground ball rate, which was like 57% 2 years ago and was more like 49% last year. So I went down a little bit under that, 47.5. I think that the league average is about 44%. So those are the offensive over-unders there. And then there's pitching ones too. I don't know if we want to mention those, but
yeah,
you got another slide you want to put up.
Yeah, I'll put another slide up on there. And this is one from Sean Belesian, Detroit sports media legend Sean Belesian, who is a friend of the show. And he is also, by the way, he has his own podcast channel. And if you have not subscribed to it, I want to plug it real quick because Sean is good people. And I also screwed up on the graphic here. He said that he had Baez under and torque over. So that's my fault. But
is he doing shows with Shep?
Yeah, him and Matt Shepard are doing a show on YouTube, so you can find it. I'm trying to plug it right away, real quick here. But
of course, former Tigers announcer Matt Shepard.
Yeah, former Tiger
Detroit media
announcer.
personality.
Yeah, Shepard Shower. By the way, Matt Shepard was really good on 11. He was one of my favorite listens when he was on 11:30 The Fan, and fantastic. Yeah, he was a fantastic show. But him and I'm sorry, the Unsyndicated. That's the YouTube channel you should check out. Subscribe and check out Sean Belizean over there with Matt Shepard. Good stuff over there. But I do like his most games at third base. By the way, that was another one. Ibanez comes up.
That was my tiebreaker. So we just go through the pitching ones real quick. We have Kenta Maeda at over under 8.5 wins. Tarek Skubal over 150.5 strikeouts. Jack Flaherty over under 21.5 games start. That's a tough one because we kind of did the same thing with Lorenzen last year, and he ended up having more starts, but they weren't with the Tigers. That's where this counts. So if the Tigers end up trading Flaherty for any reason, then that might not hit. Casey Mize ERA at 4.15. I was struggling to find the right number to put there for him. That one sounded okay to me. I thought it would be like some people would go, because we did, I think, Turnbull last year at like 3.75, and that was a toughie. And then Matt Manning's fastball velocity, I don't know. I couldn't come up with something different. So I just 93.9. It was 93.4 last year, and it was 94.4 in the spring. So split the difference. And then Alex Lang saves 20.5 last year. We had 18.5, and he hit the over on that. So I bumped it up a little bit. And then the final two are the prospect debuts this year, 5.5. I'm counting Colt Keith in that because he hasn't debuted yet, right? So that's one. Are there going to be 5 more prospects to make their debut this year? That's I don't know. And then, the tiebreaker is which player plays the most games at third base for the Tigers this year.
All right. I like that. So real quick, we'll speed through some of these, then we'll go into our own. Adam Baydoun, who has been shadow banned, but Adam is a good guy. I work with at Woodward Sports. Fantastic guy. And his most games played at third base, Cut Baez. I started cracking up because he sent me that. But the number, I liked his walk number for Canada at it was over, but I just thought it was funny when you said most games at third, Cut Baez. Scott Bentley, another friend of the show. He's Locked On Tigers host, also Locked On Red Wings host. He seemed a little optimistic on Riley Green, under on Maeda, which kind of surprised me a little bit.
Wins are tough.
Wins are tough. And he went over on Flaherty's starts in Detroit.
Under on Torque, WRC.
Yeah. I that surprised me a little bit too. Also, Matt Broder from Woodward Sports, he chimed in a little bit too as well. He gave us a couple. He's very optimistic about the pitching staff. You can tell here. Urshela is for third base, and another guy that we haven't talked about in a long time, Jordan Hall, who was the host of the Podcastianos, is back with the new name of a podcast called Eat 'Em Up, the Detroit Tigers podcast, in honor of the great Eat 'Em Up guy who so sadly, tragically passed away a few years ago. He's back with his co-host Alex, and I'll have his totals here in a second. He also too was he had my favorite over of all, Tarek Skubal, way over 150 strikeouts. So I like that one a lot. And then Alex, who is his co-host, also same thing, was very optimistic or very positive about the pitching staff and was over on Torque. And lastly, Brandon, and we'll give our own here in a second, but Brandon Day of Bless You Boys, who is, and I spelled Chief wrong. I just realized it. Wow. I just pulled a Snickers moment. I just realized I spelled Chiefs wrong. Oh, man. Oh, somebody out in somewhere on the East Coast, somebody's laughing at me right now. Many people are laughing at me right now. The grammar police. Yeah, so this is Brandon's, and he is going to be our third mic, helping us out on the Minor League podcast starting next week. So I'm looking forward to having Brandon on. Pretty stoked about that. So, all right, gentlemen, that is we have some more. We have a couple of people on Twitter. I'll be putting those out there as the week goes on. Chris, what is your over-under looking at?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't do one. I didn't do one yet.
Oops.
And it got to the point where I was taking down so many other people's that I didn't know if I could do it honestly without looking at it and seeing where I might be able to sneak points. So I don't know if I will do one.
How about this then? How about this? We'll have you then let's do bull predictions then instead.
All right. Well,
let's say let's go win loss total here, Chris.
Yeah, nothing terribly bold there. I'll go 84 wins for the Tigers. 84 in honor of the 40th anniversary of 1984.
Oh, there you go. Symmetry.
It's not terribly bold, is it? But I don't know. I don't ever have the. Here's a bold prediction: Tarek Skubal throws 100 miles an hour on opening day. It'll be like 99.6, but it'll show as 100 on the radar gun.
I like it.
All right. My bold prediction. All right, I'm gonna give you guys my bold prediction here. Crack my knuckles a little bit. I'll give you 5 bold predictions. Number 1, the Tigers will have at least the Tigers are going to have at least 6 prospects debut this year.
All right.
Okay? 6.
Break them down. Who are they?
Break them down. All right. So Wilmer Flores will be 1. Chase Young will be 1. And I will give Brandon Day this. Somebody else, I actually was Connor who said this as his prediction of over under. Well, starts at third base. Young, taking the year at most. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. So props to Connor on that. So yeah, there's Young. There's another one. Montero will make his debut. We have Dylan Dingler will make his debut. He's
and
on
you
the
have
40
Cole
man.
Keith, right? So that's
Cole Keith. That's 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 6th one, the one that's, I think the one that really is going to, Eddie Leonard will be that guy.
And that's not. There are other people who could do it, including Winslow Perez, Kaider Montero. I don't think you mentioned him, did you?
Yeah, Montero. No, I mentioned Montero.
Oh, did you Montero? Okay, sorry.
Malloy.
Malloy, Big B,
Madden,
Herder, Madden, Job. Yeah, it's possible.
All right, Uper.
Well, on that specific over/under, I went over as well, and I think I put down 7. But now that you list all those names, it wouldn't shock me if it was 8. There's a lot of guys who are going to be hopefully playing well enough to merit a turn up here, especially as injuries hit, which they always do. I think there's going to be plenty of rookies debut. I got the Tigers at 87 wins this year. I am usually on the lower end of the spectrum on this show when we predict wins. But I just have a sense that at least 1 or 2 of the rookies in the lineup are going to produce and be stalwarts. And I think they both will. I think Keith and Meadows can hold their own. I've been very pleased to watch Meadows so consistent this spring. And I know spring stats don't mean anything. I get that. But as I mentioned to Cameron last week, he's just been so steady. He hasn't had any like 0 for 15s or anything silly like that he's had to fight through. So I really think that the rookies are going to be a big part of what they do. And I think they have the pitching depth to sustain themselves through the season. The Twins they have so much injury risk up and down that roster. So many guys who've been hurt, and they're hoping that they can piece together a year where everybody's healthy. We'll see. I mean, and the Tigers handled them last year, and not that those wins count any longer, but fact is they did. So I think they can win the division. I think they win 87 games. I'm most into watching. I want to see what Mize is this year, and then Parker Meadows and Colt Keith. That's where my intention is going to be.
Yeah, I'm the amount of talent coming out there. And Tyler brought up the Twins impression, and you're right, Uper. I don't think the Twins are relying on way too much luck, and I don't think they have enough depth to get there. And so, as far as win totals here, as far as win totals goes for the Tigers, I will get to that in a second. But I did want to get some of the bold predictions that were in here from Tyler, and I like this one. The Tigers have 3 All-Stars, Skubal, Flaherty, and Torkelson or Green. Both Keith and Meadows finished top 5 in Rookie of the Year, and Toledo wins the International League Championship. I really think Toledo's roster is stacked to do that. It's I don't think it's as deep as Norfolk. Norfolk's roster last year was ridiculous. Baltimore's roster was one of the best rosters we've ever seen assembled in the last decade down there.
And they've got Baltimore. They didn't call up Holiday, Stowers, and Kerstad. I think they're all back in AAA. Not to mention like Connor Norby and so it'll be tough. It's always hard. Sam Dykstra told us the same thing when we talked to him on the minor league podcast that like it's a fool's errand to predict you're winning a minor league championship. But we've joked about it, and other people have said as much that Mud Hens roster this year looks as good as the 2019 Tigers, if not better. So that's it's a good team.
Well, and there's actually a couple of guys at Erie that are pretty good too, right? Who probably will get moved up to Toledo. So as Toledo loses guys, there's actually not the dregs coming behind them out of Erie too. So
yeah. I mean, why worry about the West Michigan? But that's another story for them. We'll talk about that in the minor league podcast. But Richard said his prediction. He said, "Hey Raj, my prediction: 2024 will be like the 1983 Tigers, where the team was maturing, and the 1984 Tigers were all together." I think that's a good one, Richard, because this is a team that's really suffering some of the growing pains of it all. And I really think if Parker Meadows can hit like he does in the spring, that to me, I mean, if anything, I know we're big Cole Keefe stands here, whatever, but Parker Meadows, I mean, he's had. I just try not to get into the hype in the weeds about spring training, but he's looked damn good. I mean, when the Tigers' offense was nobody was hitting, he was hitting. I mean, it wasn't against like AA guys either. I mean, he was the only one that hit off Zach Wheeling the other day when Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, it was the bunt single. Yeah,
I mean, but it was a really. But
that's in his tool bag. That bunt singles, line drives, triples, home runs. He really is a terrifically well-rounded player. If he makes, enough contact, and we talked about it before, he's not a huge swing and miss guy. Swings and misses less than Torque and Carp and Green. He just doesn't swing as much. So yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting because we talked about it before, and we just thought he was underrated in general on a national level because people weren't taking into account how high his floor is because of the defense and also how high his ceiling is because of all the tools. So yeah, I don't know. I think one thing that he's going to have in his favor, and talking about how steady he is, he got the taste of the big leagues last year. He's not going to be intimidated. And he really is a patient hitter. He's not a Justin Henry Malloy walking 18%, but he's probably going to post somewhere 9, 10, 11, 12% walk rate. He's going to work at bats. He's a really good player, and I think he's in for a good season.
That's right here. You know what? This is definitely Sean deserves this drop.
Hey, good stuff. I think people are getting really cranked.
His bold prediction. Torque is going to be Silver Slugger. Meadows makes a good Rookie of the Year run, and Sawyer Gibson Long will be top 3 of the rotation by July 30th. We're playing again.
Hey, good stuff. I think people are getting really cranked.
Yeah,
that is a bold one.
Yeah,
that dude.
Yeah. No,
real
but
quick, I'm sorry. The 83 Tigers, were they 92 and 70 or 90 and 72? Do we remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Is that the team that lost to the Brewers down the stretch? No, that's 80. I'm sorry, that's 82. That's 82. I'm sorry.
83. They were just a good baseball team.
But Baltimore was really but Baltimore was damn good. Yeah, Baltimore was really, really good. That was the year. Yeah, the Orioles won the World Series in 83.
Yes.
And that was they had
83. Yeah. They were 92 and 70.
There you go.
Yeah.
Finished 6 games out.
6 games. Hosed. That.
It was a quality baseball team, though. You could see it. You could feel it coming the next year. You just knew it. I mean, that's it.
I picked 84. You picked 87. So, Roger, you're going to have to pick Tigers for 2006 wins or
all right. You said wait. You said you said 82.
87.
You said 87. I said 84.
All right.
Honor the 96 Tigers.
There you go.
If they're going to be the 96 Tigers, if they're in the 96 Tigers, we're in trouble. We're really in trouble. That's one of the worst teams I've ever watched in my life. Oh my God. Hey, everybody. Scott Sanders here. I can't pitch, but that's cool. Scott Sanders. Everybody, can tell that.
They gave up 1,103 runs that year.
Yeah.
Fastball, the Terminator.
All right. Sorry. All right. I'm just trying to. Okay. I'm stalling for time here. I'm going to go with the Tigers are going to win. You know what? Screw it. Might as well go big, go home with this.
Oh.
All right, Tigers. I was going to be the low man on totem pole because I still think they have they need offense, but I just if everything goes right and they stay healthy, screw it. Tigers win 90 games.
90 games.
There you go.
90.
I think people are getting really cranked.
I think you put some of that money down in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, it's just really, is it? Yeah.
Write it down. 90.
Okay, you know what? Tigers will win 90 games. All right, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm probably gonna be way off. I don't care.
If they win 90 games, they that's a probable playoff team, which would be a lot of fun. I'll say that.
I'll go big, go home. That's what I'm gonna say. Go big, go home.
Here's why I went a little higher than I normally go. Right, I'm usually happy to pick them at 65 wins.
Because you had some caffeine before the podcast, Cooper. Is that what happened?
Yeah, maybe that was a little bit of or some THC and some sparkling water or something. But, not that I know anything about that. But anyway, by the way, we should have a show where we have edibles and we call it Baseball for Gummies. We should do that.
You guys don't want to see me high. You guys don't want to see me high. I mean,
if we make it 35 minutes into that, I will disappear. I will go off, and I don't know if I told you guys the story when I bought some of those for my wife because she had some surgery and she wasn't feeling good, and that the medicine she was taking was bad. Not bad, but it was like zonking her out. She was all gray, and it was like she was on Oxy or whatever, right? And she didn't like it. So I was like, well, maybe this will work. She never took them. So one day I was like, yeah, I'll just
why not?
Yeah. And they were two gummies that were both, I think, 50 milligrams a piece. But I didn't think anything of it. I didn't and I didn't read them. And I just took a bite out of half of one of them. And I went about my day, and I went out and I started mowing the lawn, and then I lost my mind. I was sweating. I was falling over. I had to sneak into the house. I thought my wife was going to find me, and the dog was barking, and I was flipping out. And I was one of those things where I actually thought that my heart was going to explode. I could feel it, and I knew better, but I was it feels like it's going to explode. It was a tough night.
That cries out a podcast to me, Chris. I'm sorry. But
so.
Well, anyway, what I was getting at with the Tigers, why a better prediction this year? When we talk about the scenarios that they need for success, right? To me, they don't seem as outlandish as some other years. There are things that could actually happen. Colt Keith is good enough to be the rookie of the year potentially. Austin Meadows is the athlete that they need in center field. That could go really well. They have a lot of various pitching options this year. They're not hoping that, a core group of three guys can carry the whole team along. So that's my hope. Why I'm a bit more optimistic than usual. It's just that I think that this team has some basis of reality in those pie in the sky scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it may take a lot of things going right, but there are a lot of things that could go right, and sometimes that does just happen for teams where everybody's taking a step forward. It's contagious. You don't have to worry about carrying the whole team if you let them down with men on base, because the next guy will step up and do it. And yeah, I mean, there are scenarios where Colt Keith is a 4-win player and Parker Meadows is a 4-win player and Skubal's a 6-win player, and oh man, suddenly they look like a threat to go to the World Series. It's possible. But
I can't. Okay, I can't walk away going 90 wins. I can't really realistically say that. Yeah. I have to be real with myself. I have to say 84, 85. I can't do 90. I just, what? Because I don't feel
caught up in the moment.
I got caught up in the moment. I got caught in peer pressure.
All right. Well, you don't get to, if they go and win 90, you don't get
no.
Right.
I won't claim it because then I want you guys to call me out on it. Look, as far as I would probably say 90 on gummies, and I'd just be eating my shirt or something along those lines.
Listen, I think we'll all be happy if they're in contention.
Yes.
After the trade deadline, right?
Oh yeah.
And obviously, if you're in contention in September, then let's go win this, right? But it'd be nice to just be part of that again.
If they make the playoffs, can we do baseball for gummies?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I have too many people in here that are going to be holding me accountable. Know full well that they've listened to the show long enough to know that I can't You can see 90 games with a straight face. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on now. I mean, ugh. Wrong mute button there. There's just too many things to 90 wins is like I must be high on like that. So I'm not. Yeah, there's no way I can say it. No, there's no. So 83 officially 83 on record. That is my 83 wins. This is a team that's
83. All right.
games. And if they get a bat, if they get another bat, and they get a power bat, then up at to 87. But I don't see that happening. There's no Matt Manning trade or anything like that, which there might be speculation with that. But I don't see the Tigers being that clever right now because Scott Harris hasn't blown me away with that, quite frankly.
Well, I will say, and they've gotten us with this a couple times.
On that note, we did get questions, and let's go through that real quick because we did get questions, right, Chris?
A couple. Did you hear me?
On Twitter?
Yeah. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh.
What's wrong?
I was asking if we had any questions on Twitter, Chris.
Yeah. It seemed like you couldn't hear me.
Oh, no. You just froze. You were like,
oh, okay. I was, yeah, there were a handful. We talked about the one, already. I forgot what it was. Then was the Meadows triples. And then Great Scott asked, do you think the Tigers are shopping Wentz with the idea of keeping Fido and Brisky? I think we already touched on that.
Yeah.
I do. It's possible they're shopping him. I think, yeah, we could see that. Patrick Kamini said, what are we thinking of Max Clark's upside at this point? And who's your sleeper pick to rise in the prospect rankings this year for the Tigers? And that's an interesting question he asked there because we'll have an article coming tomorrow, a Tigers minor league report, where we have the whole team talking about, our prospect pick to surprise this year in terms of position player and one as a pitcher. But since we're here now, I don't know.
because we also got a question. A friend of the show wanted to know who would be the top prospect for our team on opening day. So
the top prospect for
who would be the top prospect for Detroit on opening day? I mean, that's outside of Cole Keith, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Wait, I don't know. But yeah, so the what do you think of Max Clark's upside at this point? I still think it's MVP level upside. I do wonder about the power ceiling, and he for all his he was famous and on the showcase circuit and all that stuff. He still is a guy who was playing his high school baseball in Indiana and probably didn't see a ton of guys throwing over 90 miles an hour. So I think it's going to take him a little while to adjust to velocity in professional baseball. But if and when he does that, I think that he's got a chance to move pretty quickly because we're talking about a plus defender in center field with a huge arm and plus speed and hitting ability. So yeah, I think all-star upside, MVP upside, and I don't know. I like people just want everything to happen right now, and I get it, but it's going to take some time.
Just block the Rangers highlights from your iPhone. Just block those. Don't worry about them. You forget Wyatt Langford exists. Max Clark just needs his time. Chris just laid it out there for you. That's the path. It's just going to take patience, which, a lot of us don't have. That's okay. That's why we're baseball fans.
Yeah, there's a lot of fans who are upset that we predicted him to start the season in Lakewood. Guys, he's only had 11 games of pro ball.
Mm-hmm.
I know you want to see him in West Michigan because it's close to everybody here in Michigan, but he'll get there.
Yeah. And if he goes and performs, he could be in West Michigan by the middle of the season, right? But every high school player, with the exception of I said, Rick Porcello went straight to high A, and so did Daniel Fields, and I still don't know why they did that, and it ruined him. Basically, he had to stay there for 3 years. Every high school player goes to low A to begin his first full season. It just I said it, but Byron Buxton, Mike Trout, Jackson Holliday, Colt Keith, Parker Meadows, Riley Green, they all did it. So there's no reason to be upset that Max Clark is doing it. That's what you do.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I don't know if you have breakout predictions or if you want to just wait until the article comes out, or
let's just wait till the article comes out because you can go to TigerAnimalReport.com to check that out. And really, I think that there's going to be some really as far as like some. Oh, number 30. Or by the way, Lyle Lockhart is our number 30 prospect, and that hopefully will be dropping here the next day or two. So he will be the latest on our top 30. It was close between him and Dylan Smith, but Lockhart has, I've heard from a really good source, is also increasing velocity too. So that would be huge because it's a guy throwing 92, Chris?
He was 90, 92. And the outing we saw, he was more like 89, 91. And then I think he was getting up to 93, 94 in his final inning. So he was kind of letting it loose a little bit. But yeah, he's a lefty, so that you can live like that as long as he's got a couple good breaking balls and working on that split. So
yeah.
Yeah, I know. What were the other questions we asked? We were asking who we think has the most to prove, who's the first of the prospects not named Colt Keith to make the big leagues this year, and what was that? There's one other question, and I'm forgetting it now.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
So is it who has the most to prove on the big league roster?
No, this is just for the minor league. We're kind of like which prospect has the most to prove. The big league roster, it's got to be Javi Baez, right?
And the big league roster side of things, Javi Baez has so much to prove. So, I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, if Javi Baez, and no, he can't be cut, knock it off. It's just, man,
he can be, but nobody has ever done it. Okay, yeah. That's the thing. There's just, I think somebody pointed out that like Robinson Cano was the biggest deal ever, just straight up cut, which was 2 years and like 60 million. Something like that. So,
yeah, I mean, he does do things well with the glove. So there you go. I mean, Ryan Kreidler can say all he wants that he deserved it, but
yeah, and to be fair, Baez did start getting some hits toward the end of the spring. He had just compiled such a bad stretch that it doesn't really reflect in his numbers. But Torkelson didn't have a great spring either, and nobody really complained that much. Just pointing out, like,
here's how that works. It's crazy.
Well, he's young, and he did hit 31 home runs last year, or 30 home runs. But he's also not making 30 million, 28 million. But people, I don't know. People wanted to. I think people wanted to like Javi Baez, and it's just he's made it very hard with his performance. So hopefully he can come back and maybe quiet that for a little bit.
So. Thank you so much for listening. I mean, this is the highest listening audience we've ever had in the offseason, Chris. I mean, look at the numbers. I don't know if you see the numbers.
I actually don't see the numbers anymore because I was logged out a while ago, so I have no idea.
Yeah, we have 336 people watching live right now.
336?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you guys?
Don't you people have lives?
Yeah. Go outside, nerd. I got time for your worthless chime-ins? No, but that's awesome. Thank you, guys. I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was looking at the numbers, and we post on Twitter, so that does help. So thank you so much. But we appreciate it. We'll be back probably Wednesday or Thursday. But Crystal Keith, who has joined us numerous times talking White Sox baseball, she'll be here to let you know that the pouring of the sour milk is on the cereal is happening.
The Titanic is sinking.
The Titanic is sinking. The White Sox are going to be, they're going to be out of the race pretty quickly. So we'll be back. Yeah, another show this week. And then in terms of the minor league side of things, Friday we'll be out at Toledo for opening day. We'll be out there early, so come say hi if you're out in the Toledo Maumee area. Is it Maumee? Yeah, Maumee. Yeah, the area out there. Maybe
Harrisburg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the whole area out there. There's going to be. I don't know. We hit up Tony Pacos, Chris. It's been a while since we hit up Tony Pacos.
Go to Leland's boyhood home in Perrysburg.
Somebody was talking. Somebody, a friend of mine bought some pickles, and they're gushing over their pickles, and I don't know.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be packed, so we may maybe wait till the next time we go to Toledo. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's been a minute since I haven't gone to a minor league game since the first week of September. I'm ready to get back into it. It's going to be fun. I wonder who will hit the first home run for the Mud Hens this year, because they have about 8 good candidates.
Oh, so by the way, the show is Shep and Sean on the. Now I'm just drawing a blank on the name of the channel. Yeah, look for Shep and Sean. If you're the Facebook page, if you're on Facebook, look for Shep and Sean. You'll find it on there. And again, Sean Belesian doing some good work over there. So if you're a fan of local radio in the area, I'm a big fan. Sean Belesian's the reason why I got into podcasting and radio in the first place. And
Unsyndicated.
Unsyndicated. Thank you. Unsyndicated. That is the name of Sean Belesian's YouTube channel. Fantastic guy. I got to know him a few years ago when I was doing Livonia Stevenson hockey, and he's been the guy's awesome. And so he's been nothing but gracious with his time.
One last thing I wanted to mention, and this is neither here nor there, but my mom gave me a book about the Tigers recently, and it's called Terror in the City of Champions. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it or read it.
Wow.
It's actually set in the 1930s, you know, like when the Tigers in that 8-month span or whatever, when the Red Wings, Tigers, Lions all won, and Joe Louis was the heavyweight champion, or I don't know if he was heavyweight champion, but it's about a group called the Black Legion that I've never heard of, that was basically like the Klan, and they were a secret society in Detroit doing Klan type things, and how they were terrorizing Detroit while all these championships were going on. And it's really interesting. And
so this is nonfiction.
This is true.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of it.
Book by Tom Stanton, Terror in the City of Champions, Murder, Baseball, and other stuff.
Wow.
I'm looking at it in the New York Times bestseller. Murder, Baseball, and the Secret Society that shocked Depression era Detroit.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's very entertaining. And
have you started reading it?
Yeah, I'm a couple chapters into it. Yeah, it's
nice.
Yeah, they're kind of they start off talking about Mickey Cochran coming to Detroit, and how Walter Briggs bringing him there and all this stuff, and Navin, and how Briggs and Navin were different, and one had a bunch of money and the other one was like, hey, this is my business, and all that stuff. And then they also mentioned basically this guy who got roped into this secret society where they drove out of town off into the Washington Township or something like that, where it was literally like a Klan meeting, like everybody in robes and hoods and secret handshakes and stuff like that. And yeah, it's kind of fascinating.
That ball is gone.
Found it.
Nice.
Such a all-time.
Yeah, I forgot.
There we go.
Yeah. So the voice of Greg Gagne, who will be part of the Tigers broadcast, he did a good job last week. Shout out to Greg as well. So we'll see you later this week. Have a good few days off, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night.